Hello everybody, I'm Martin. We're back once again to talk about Applied Energistics 2, or rather, another one of its add-on mods. This time, we're going to talk about Mega Cells. Because what is Applied Energistics 2 if not the means to completely cripple and destroy a server? And what happens if you can't seem to accomplish that through normal means? Well, do I have a solution for you? Because what Mega Cells does is exactly what it says in its name. It massively multiplies the things you can do with AE2. So let's start with the new crafting units, which if you look at this, basically do exactly what they say. The Mega Crafting Coprocessor counts as 4 coprocessors. The crafting storage, well, the numbers look similar, but you notice that that says millions and not kilo. You can craft absolutely ridiculously sized jobs. It's almost like you're playing Greg Tech New Horizons, except I can't fathom why you would ever need to do this in any pack other than that, and that one's mired so far back this mod doesn't even exist. And at the end of the day, this actually doesn't cost that much more to make because this is really just, well, 4 crafting units slapped together into a single block. And the crafting units are, well, they're the bigger storage components, which are, you know, the exact same thing as the tiers below them, basically. But let's be fair, none of that matters because all that matters is that these come in black. Because if you're going to destroy a server, you might as well do it in style. But if we come into the crafting terminal, you can see that we now have a completely ridiculously sized CPU that can process a bunch at a time. And just like normal crafting units, you can stack these together. Like we can make this completely ridiculous because we will never ever be able to need to use something this big to craft with. But that's not where we stop with this, folks, because it's not good enough that they just have gigantic crafting processors. They also have gigantic storage cells for both items and fluids, as well as the portable versions that you can pick up and carry with you. And again, much like the crafting units, these are pretty much made exactly the same way as the normal cells, just increasingly more expensive based on the storage component used. Like if we put an enemy drive here and we toss this disk in and we toss something random in here, you can see that we have used almost no space whatsoever. But I should note that unlike the deep storage disks from AE2 things, these do have types. So you can store a relatively small number of types of items in very, very, very large piles. So good for storing things like a cobble gem that you need to be excessively large for no good reason. Let's also say that maybe that sort of bulk storage isn't enough for you and you need even more specialized storage. Well, that's where the Mega Bulk Item Storage Cell comes in. And I regret to inform you, this one requires a singularity to be able to make. But once you have it, you can come into the cell workbench, just like a normal cell, partition it for whatever item you want it to store, put it back in your ME drive, and then you have bulk storage, but that will be all that it can store. But that's not all, because it also has an add-on. If you come up here, you can see that it can take a compression card, which thankfully is a bit easier to make, although it still requires a matter condenser to make matter balls, but that's at least easier than a singularity. And you can put that in there. And then when we come back to the drive and slot that back in there and go into our storage, we can now toss in iron ingots and iron nuggets and get them compacted into blocks of iron. Sort of like a compacting drawer from the Storage Drawers mod. It now can convert into those blocks. But that doesn't get you all the way there, does it? Because it can't convert back natively. So instead, what we're going to do is break the ME drive and then add this little doohickey called the Mega Decompression Module. And just put it right there as if it's a storage bus. Put the drive back down on top of it, put the card back in, and then go back into a crafting interface. And now if we empty most of it back out, you notice that it knows how to craft iron nuggets and iron ingots. Now that said, this isn't an entirely foolproof solution because you can't just come in here and say, give me 10 iron ingots, because it's going to do that and then immediately finish the craft and put it back into the block. But at least it knows how to do it for auto crafting. So if you need to be able to pull a whole bunch of iron ingots on your own, you're probably going to want to keep that in a separate storage partitioned off by itself so you can get them. Or have it stored into like an ME interface or something, and like always keeping like 64 in stock, just constantly keeping it refilled that way. There are ways around this. So there is one more thing we should probably discuss, and that's the Mega Pattern Provider. And you need to pay attention to the sentence right under that says supports processing patterns only. This can only be used for machines. It cannot be used with a molecular assembler. I guarantee you're going to run into this and you're going to go, why isn't this working? And that's the reason. I don't know why they limited it this way. It just is what it is. But this one should be pretty self-explanatory because as soon as we open this up, you'll notice that it has 2 rows of patterns. That's it. That's its whole shtick. It just holds twice as much for a machine, which is useful for machine processing if you're doing like large amounts of ingots or something. So don't discount that, and don't forget it exists because it looks almost identical to the normal one, and remember that it only works for machines. Anyway, I'd like to think that it's pretty obvious how megacells can up your game to absolutely ridiculous levels for AE2. And realistically, I would like to hope most people would never need to use these because I am terrified of what this will do to a server. Anyhow, as always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.